Sales compensation driving performance. It's what every business leader believes. But what if the entire foundation of sales motivation is built on a myth? Today's data shows something shocking about what really drives sales success.
That's such an interesting perspective, especially when you look at how companies typically approach this problem.
Well, let me share something fascinating. Our research shows that in over 70% of underperforming sales teams, compensation wasn't even in the top 3 issues holding them back.
So, what were the actual problems they discovered?
It's really interesting. The biggest issues were usually inadequate product training, poorly defined territories, and lack of career development. Let me give you a concrete example. We studied a tech company that increased commissions by 50% on new products, but sales barely moved.
Hmm, that must have been a pretty expensive lesson for them.
Oh man, you have no idea. They spent nearly $2 million in additional compensation before realizing their sales team didn't understand how to position the product against competitors. But here's where it gets really interesting. After implementing a comprehensive training program, sales jumped 85% with the original compensation structure.
That makes me think about all the other misconceptions in sales management.
Right. And let's talk about another surprising finding. Companies with the highest paid sales forces often have the lowest profit margins. We're seeing cases where sales are up 30% year over year, but profits are actually declining.
Well, that sounds like a classic case of misaligned incentives.
Exactly. And here's the data to back it up. In a study of 500 sales organizations, only 12% had compensation plans that effectively balanced revenue growth with profitability. Most were just driving volume at any cost.
So, what's the solution? How do successful companies structure their sales management systems?
Well, it's fascinating, actually. The most successful organizations we studied built what I call the trinity of sales excellence. First, they ensure crystal clear market opportunities. Second, they develop a robust strategy. And third, they truly understand their company's capabilities.
That sounds like it requires a lot more thought than just tweaking commission rates.
You know what's really mind-blowing? Companies that invested equally in training, territory design, and compensation saw an average of 43% higher sales performance compared to those focusing primarily on compensation.
Those numbers are pretty compelling.
And here's another shocking statistic. In companies with high-performing sales teams, managers spend about 60% of their time coaching and developing their reps, versus the industry average of just 15%.
That's quite a difference in management approach.
The implications are huge. Like, we're seeing companies completely restructure their sales operations around this new understanding. One Fortune 500 company actually reduced their commission rates but invested heavily in training and support. Their sales increased by 28% in just 6 months.
Those results really challenge the traditional thinking about sales motivation.
And you know what's even more interesting? The data on retention. Companies that focus solely on compensation have an average turnover rate of 38%, while those with comprehensive development programs see turnover rates below 12%.
That must have a significant impact on the bottom line.
Oh, absolutely. But when you factor in recruitment and training costs, each sales rep turnover costs companies an average of $115,000. But here's the real kicker. Organizations with comprehensive sales management systems report 67% higher quota attainment.
These insights really change how we should think about sales performance.
Well, if there's one thing we've learned today, it's that successful sales management is like conducting an orchestra. Compensation is just one instrument, and you need all of them playing in harmony to create something truly remarkable.
That's such a perfect way to wrap up today's discussion. Thank you all for joining us.